So they're remaking the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the remake is coming up this Thursday. If you're interested, some of the early reviews are already online. They're kind of mixed. However, I thought, now that this is coming out, why don't we talk about the original movie, the one that started it all and became a cultural phenomenon, and that some friends of mine don't even know about. Yeah, let's talk about that movie. Before we talk about this movie, I just want to point out one quick thing. 5 people I know have not seen this movie, so why don't we talk to those 5 people for a minute. Hey everyone, let's talk about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. In 1975, this movie was released to a pretty negative reception. This movie was not exactly the most plot heavy, and it wasn't exactly the most dialogue heavy either, and it was just a bit too crazy for some people, and it was not exactly well received, and very quickly it just kind of disappeared from existence. However, in 1976 began the midnight showings in Waverly Theater, New York City, and people would line up here in the night and they would watch it again and again, and suddenly it became a thing where people would line up and would start saying dialogues from the film. Also, audiences would react to the film, and eventually it became a cultural phenomenon, and people started to dress up as the characters as well. Also, in Pittsburgh, there was something that was invented called the shadow cast, which was basically people acting to the film, which is playing in the background, and then basically lip-syncing to it and dressing up as the characters as they do so. And that has become a big thing as well. At this point, as I'm filming this review, it's running at a midnight showing in downtown Manhattan. So at this point, pretty much everybody knows about the Rocky Horror Picture Show and the legacy it's left behind. It has a following which has become huge, and it is a big thing. And now back to all of you. So this movie is about a recently married couple, Brad and Janet, who are played by Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick. And they are, recently married. And then one day in the storm, their car breaks down and they need to find a telephone to call the repair agency and to get a new tire because Brad has forgotten the spare tire. And they find a castle in the woods that night, which is owned by Dr. Frankenfurter, and the people who live in there are kind of crazy. And now we have a movie where all sorts of stuff happens. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Let's talk about one thing. This movie's insane. And here's the thing, normally that would be a bad thing for some people. Whenever a movie tries to be extremely crazy, that it embraces its craziness, this always leads to a bit of a divide among some people. Sometimes there can be people who can watch the film and accept the fact that it's crazy and understand that because that's what the movie's aiming for. And then sometimes you have to watch a film like this and you have to keep thinking to yourself, where's the script? Where's the direction? Where's the proper coherence of a storyline? This is such a thinly plotted movie. Now, I'm not saying I'm gonna say that, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people who can do that, which leads me to a problem with this film that I don't necessarily have, but a lot of people might have, and that there can be a bit of a disconnect. Sometimes there are things which people just won't want to accept even though they're extremely new and they're unique. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is a very unique film. It's a very unique way of doing things, and I've not really seen something like this before until last year when I saw a Shadowcast performance. That was the first time I even saw the movie alongside it as well. And the movie itself, while it has some problems, is pretty solid. There's definitely things about it that worked. However, there are a couple of elements in it which don't, and while I realize that's enough to get a bullet to my head, I'm gonna try and justify them as much as I can. Things I liked. Tim Curry in this movie steals the show. He is the best part of this movie, hands down. Every time he's on screen as Dr. Frankenfurter, this movie shines. And it's just quite amazing, actually. In the first 5 seconds he appears, you know this guy's just gonna steal everything. The other performances, like Susan Sarandon as Janet, Richard O'Brien as Riff Raff, and all the other actors, they're really, really good. They are also having a pretty good time. Although you can understand, they're in this crazy world. But they're going with it, and it seems to be a fun time. And I praise them for that. And at this point, I want to make a dare to you. If you can get the song out of your head after you watch this movie, you deserve a freaking medal, because it's a very catchy song, and so is the soundtrack. This is a very catchy soundtrack. It's a really cool soundtrack too, and extremely unique as well, if I do say so myself. But by far the other big positive of this movie, which is why this movie gets top marks, is the fact that it embraces its insanity. This movie knows exactly what it is, and it does exactly what it needs to. I'm not going to spoil a lot of it because I want people to see it in case you've still not seen it. It's been 41 years, what the hell are you waiting for? But on the off chance that you have not seen this movie, there's a lot that happens in this film, and there might be a disconnect for some people because many people may not be accustomed to seeing so much crazy stuff happening at the same time. There's something magical about seeing a lot of this stuff, and the movie does a great job of working it in with all the characters, and thanks to the script, it actually manages to work pretty flowingly for the most part. Now we come to the point where a lot of people would be giving me their angry eyeballs. The flaws. Every time Tim Curry's off screen, the film just doesn't really work. The problem of a good performance, or in this case a really good performance, is that whenever you're not seeing it, it sometimes tends to make the movie work not so well. And in this case, every time Tim Curry's off screen, the movie just isn't as strong. And unfortunately, the script for the characters, every time he's off screen, just isn't as compelling or as interesting as when he's on screen. Every scene with Frank-N-Furter is very interesting and very intriguing, but every time it goes off that, sometimes the intrigue kind of goes away. Also, the movie wants to embrace its characters. It wants to embrace their differences. It wants to display their uniqueness and wants to display that everyone can be accepted in a certain society in a certain way if you reveal your character traits, which I completely understand. Sometimes that works though, sometimes it doesn't work, and when it doesn't work, it becomes kind of strange actually. And sometimes there was that point where I just kept thinking to myself, I think they're going here to an extreme for the sake of it, not because the story is one which is full of extremes. As I've already said, it embraces its insanity, but sometimes it feels like it's embracing its insanity just for the sake of it, which doesn't sometimes work. Nonetheless, I still enjoy this movie. There are things about it that I really like, and if you have not seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show yet, do go check it out. Just watch the film. You'll probably really enjoy it. If nothing else, it's just a mad escape down what is just a crazy train ride. I'm gonna give the Rocky Horror Picture Show an 8 out of 10. So I know a lot of you love the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and if you do, what are your thoughts on it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, let me know. I'll have some more reviews out very soon for other movies as well, and TV shows maybe. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later.
Just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.